You are in a conversation with a friend, a colleague, or a family member. Suddenly, they start twisting your words. They shift blame. You feel a subtle pressure, a growing unease. Your gut clenches. You start feeling confused, doubting your own memory, questioning your sanity. This isn't just a bad interaction. This is a deliberate tactic. This video will show you how manipulators operate, how your brain is wired to fall for their tricks, and the precise steps to break free from their influence. Understand these patterns and you will never be caught off guard again. Manipulation is not magic, my friend. It is a calculated exploitation of your brain's fundamental operating system. Our minds are built with shortcuts, known as cognitive biases, which help us process information quickly. Manipulators understand these shortcuts. They leverage them to bypass rational thought and tap directly into emotional responses. Consider the reciprocity principle, a powerful social norm. When someone does something for you, you feel an innate urge to return the favor. Manipulators might offer unsolicited help or small gifts, creating a sense of obligation that they later exploit. This isn't about genuine generosity. It's a strategic investment in future control. Furthermore, manipulators target your brain's emotional centers. The amygdala, a key player in processing fear and threat, can be activated through intimidation or subtle threats, making you more compliant. Conversely, they might trigger feelings of guilt or shame, emotions deeply rooted in our social bonding mechanisms. Research by neuroscientist Dr. Tania Singer on empathy highlights how our brains are wired to connect with others' feelings. Manipulators can mimic empathy, creating a false sense of connection and trust, only to betray it later. This emotional mimicry disarms your natural defenses, making you vulnerable to their agenda. Another critical mechanism is the disruption of your prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for executive functions like decision-making, impulse control, and critical thinking. Constant gaslighting, where your reality is questioned and denied, creates cognitive dissonance. This mental strain overloads the prefrontal cortex, making it harder to think clearly and assert yourself. You become more susceptible to external suggestions, even those that contradict your own experience. The manipulator essentially creates a fog, making it impossible for you to navigate your own thoughts. This isn't just psychological. It's a neurological assault on your ability to reason and protect yourself. Comment brain below if you've ever felt this mental fog. Our brains are ancient machines, largely shaped by the demands of survival in small interconnected groups. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors lived in tribes where cooperation was not just beneficial, but essential for survival. This environment fostered a deep-seated need for social connection, belonging, and group harmony. Our neural pathways evolved to prioritize social cues, to seek approval, and to avoid ostracization. This is the evolutionary bedrock upon which modern manipulation is built. We are by nature social creatures, and our brains are exquisitely tuned to the dynamics of social influence. This ancient wiring, however, often clashes with the complexities of modern society. In a tribal setting, social influence was generally benign, a mechanism for maintaining cohesion and shared purpose. Disagreement could mean exile, a death sentence. Therefore, our brains developed a strong bias towards conformity and trust within the group. Today, this innate drive to connect and conform can be weaponized. Manipulators exploit this fundamental human need, twisting the desire for belonging into a tool for control. They create artificial in-groups or cultivate a sense of shared identity, only to leverage that bond for their own gain. Consider the concept of groupthink, first extensively studied by psychologist Irving Janis. While not direct manipulation, groupthink illustrates how the pressure to conform can override individual critical thinking. Manipulators understand this dynamic. They isolate their targets, creating a micro-environment where their narrative becomes the only accepted truth. This isolation amplifies the ancient fear of being an outsider, making the target more susceptible to the manipulator's agenda. The very mechanisms that once ensured our survival, our capacity for empathy, our need for belonging, our tendency to trust, become vulnerabilities in the hands of a skilled manipulator. They don't introduce new fears. They simply amplify and redirect the ancient ones, already hardwired into our minds, turning our evolutionary strengths into modern-day weaknesses. This conflict between our evolved social instincts and the predatory tactics of modern manipulators is the core of why we are so susceptible. Manipulation is not an abstract concept. Its devastating effects are visible across various human interactions. Consider the classic example of cults. Leaders like Jim Jones of the People's Temple systematically isolated followers, controlled information, and fostered an environment of dependence and fear. They employed tactics such as love bombing, where new recruits are showered with affection, followed by gradual psychological erosion. This creates a powerful bond, making it incredibly difficult for individuals to recognize the manipulation, even when faced with clear evidence of harm. The research by Dr. Robert Cialdini on influence and persuasion provides a robust framework for understanding these tactics, highlighting principles like authority, scarcity, and commitment and consistency, all of which are masterfully exploited in manipulative environments. In the realm of toxic relationships, gaslighting stands out as a particularly insidious form of manipulation. The manipulator systematically undermines the victim's perception of reality, making them question their memories, sanity, and judgment. This can manifest as denying events that clearly happened, twisting words, or projecting their own faults onto the victim. Over time, the victim becomes so disoriented that they rely entirely on the manipulator's version of reality, losing their sense of self and autonomy. Clinical psychologist Dr. Ramani Durvasula has extensively documented the patterns of narcissistic abuse, where gaslighting is a central feature, illustrating how these behaviors erode self-worth and create deep psychological wounds. Beyond personal relationships, manipulation permeates corporate environments and political discourse. Unethical leaders might use fear-mongering to push agendas, create false urgency to bypass due diligence, or employ emotional blackmail to secure loyalty. They often cultivate a culture of silence, where dissent is punished and conformity is rewarded. This creates a fertile ground for unchecked power and exploitation. The subtle cues are often dismissed as just how things are, but they are precisely the mechanisms of control. The constant need to please, the fear of speaking up, the feeling of being perpetually wrong, these are not accidental. They are the carefully constructed outcomes of manipulative strategies. Have you ever felt pressured to agree with something you knew was wrong in a professional setting? Comment work below if you have. Understanding manipulation is not just about identifying threats, it's also about recognizing the nuanced spectrum of human influence. Not every attempt to sway your opinion is malicious. In fact, healthy persuasion is a cornerstone of effective communication, negotiation, and leadership. The same psychological principles that manipulators exploit can be used ethically to build consensus, inspire action, and foster genuine connection. For instance, the principle of reciprocity, when applied with genuine intent, builds trust and strengthens relationships. Offering help without expectation or giving a thoughtful gift creates a positive social bond, not a debt to be exploited. The key distinction lies in intent and respect for autonomy. When you become adept at discerning manipulative tactics, you gain a powerful advantage: the ability to protect your own psychological boundaries and to engage in relationships built on authenticity. This knowledge transforms you from a potential victim into an empowered individual. It allows you to differentiate between someone genuinely advocating for a cause or expressing a need and someone attempting to control you through subtle coercion. This discernment sharpens your intuition, allowing you to trust your gut feelings when something feels off, rather than dismissing them as irrational. Furthermore, recognizing the mechanics of manipulation can lead to a deeper understanding of human behavior itself. It reveals the vulnerabilities inherent in our social wiring and the psychological levers that can be pulled. This insight can foster greater empathy for those who have been manipulated and a stronger resolve to resist such tactics in your own life. It's about turning a potential weakness, our natural susceptibility to social influence, into a profound strength. By understanding the shadows, you learn to appreciate the light. This knowledge empowers you to cultivate relationships that are truly reciprocal, respectful, and enriching, rather than those that drain your energy and diminish your sense of self. It is a journey from unwitting vulnerability to conscious resilience, a profound shift in how you navigate the social world. Recognizing manipulation is the first step. Building an impenetrable defense is the next. The protocol for protecting yourself begins with cultivating self-awareness. Pay close attention to your emotional and physical responses during interactions. Does your stomach clench? Do you feel a sudden urge to agree, even when something feels wrong? These are your body's early warning signals. Trust them. Psychologist Dr. Harriet Lerner emphasizes the importance of identifying your own emotional triggers and vulnerabilities, as manipulators often target these precise points. Understanding where you are most susceptible allows you to fortify those areas. Next, establish and enforce clear boundaries. Manipulators thrive in ambiguity. Define what is acceptable and unacceptable in your relationships and interactions. Communicate these boundaries directly and calmly. When a boundary is crossed, respond consistently. This is not about aggression. It is about self-respect and protecting your personal space. Remember, a boundary is not a wall to keep others out, but a fence to show where you stand. It teaches others how to treat you. This requires practice and can feel uncomfortable initially, especially if you are accustomed to accommodating others. Finally, practice strategic disengagement. Not every battle is worth fighting, especially with a manipulator. If an interaction consistently leaves you feeling drained, confused, or devalued, it is a strong indicator of manipulative dynamics. This might involve reducing contact, limiting personal information shared, or in severe cases, completely removing yourself from the relationship. This is not a failure, it is a strategic act of self-preservation. Seek support from trusted friends, family, or a therapist who can offer an objective perspective and reinforce your reality. They can help you untangle the web of confusion a manipulator weaves. Remember, your peace of mind is a non-negotiable asset. If you've ever successfully set a boundary against manipulation, share your experience in the comments below with a power emoji.